Kyle, do we have the chat function disabled?
You want chat disabled in here?
Well, all right, because they can't chat anyways, because we're just
No,
live
not
streaming,
in
right?
here. No, they're good.
I guess we could keep that up in case we need to put up an SOS for a technical problem or something like that, right?
Okay, we are live. There you go. We are good to go.
Right. All right. Good afternoon, Dr. Green. We are happy to be back virtually and kicking off the 2020-21 bargaining session. We've, of course, decided to do this virtually, so we could make sure that we are mitigating against COVID-19, and also this enables us to get together easier, as well as people to watch these sessions easier without having to come down to ESF. So we're looking forward to working in this forum using this platform. There may be some glitches along the way, and we'll work through them.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And for people on our side, we will be posting these under the Labor Relations website page, probably the day after our meetings, as we usually do.
And Dr. Green, well, rather than unmuting everyone, I will just tell you who is here for our team and for the audience as well, and then you can tell us who's here for your team as well.
Thank
All right.
you.
So I am here, Anthony Colucci, President of BFT and Chief Negotiator. We have Vanessa Skipper, our Vice President. We have Kyle Savage, our Treasurer. Bill Perlman from Fiddlers is a resource teacher. He is here. We have Joe Scott, who is a very recent retiree from Satellite High School. We have Melissa Woods, who is a tech integrator at ESF. We have Meredith Spencer. I hope I got your last name right, Meredith. Meredith is a science teacher at Edgewood, and we have Sandy Edwards from Bayside, who is a psychology teacher, if I'm not mistaken. Close enough? I'm getting the close enough. And also we have Rodney Savickas from Melbourne High School, who is a theater teacher who's been working on our supplements committee, who is going to go through some proposals on supplements.
Thank you. So of course we have myself, Carol Green, Director of Professional Standards and Labor Relations, and we have Rick Morton with us, Manager of Labor Relations. High School Principal Bert Clark from Rockledge. Middle School Principal Mira Trine from Jefferson Middle School. Elementary Principals Maggie Rassel from Gulfview, Christy Boyd from Quest, and Rachel Roberts from Columbia. We have Melissa Braun, who you cannot see. She's in the room with me, although I think she may be hitting that Zoom button, possibly. I'm not sure. You might be able to see her in a while. She works in our ESE department, our Student Services department. And Mark Langdorf, Director of Benefits, is with us as well. And I don't think I forgot anybody.
All right. All right. So with that said, we are ready to get started. If you are, would you like to give your proposals first?
Or you're more than welcome to.
Oh, all right. We will go ahead and go through our proposals first. So I am going to share my screen and show you guys our proposals. Okay. Okay. Can you see them, or did I share the wrong screen? You're muted, Dr. Green.
We can see your screen, Anthony.
Are you looking at the proposals?
Yes, we're looking at the first one for Article 14, but I do have a question as a matter of how are we going to exchange these? When you're done presenting and I'm done presenting, we'll share them with each other?
Yes, we'll email them, and Kyle and I are trying to figure out a way to create some sort of shared folder. I think he said we'll get everybody's emails at the end and invite everybody to the documents afterwards. So, by the way, I have 3 screens up, and that's why I'm looking at a blank screen to look at the camera, but my proposals are over here if you start thinking I'm going crazy and looking at all kinds of different things. Okay. All right, so our first proposal is for Article 14, leaves of absence, and it is Section B, paid leave of absence. And what we are requesting is parental leave. And just a little background before I read the whole proposal. It's 2020, and the time has come to offer some form of paid parental leave. This is commonplace in private industry. I know we don't always like to compare ourselves to private industry, but we got to keep in mind that we are in competition with these private industries, especially our space industry, with our teachers. So we want to be competitive with what they're offering. And over the past couple of years, we've lost many teachers to different space companies in Brevard County. So it is true that Brevard County would be leading the way in the state of Florida by offering some form of parental leave. I think that would be a source of pride for Brevard County and a great recruiting tool, as well as we head to recruitment fairs and so on. What we're looking for is 10 days of paid leave. And why we chose 10 days, although we'd like to see much more, we are trying to offer a reasonable proposal, a stepping stone into parental leave. But why we chose 10 days is because short-term disability, there is a 10-day elimination period, and this would get women who had babies through that 10 days of still having pay before they start collecting short-term disability. So what we've learned is happening now is parents are using a great deal of personal sick leave while on FMLA or some other form or just using personal sick leave. And when they return, there's little left. So in the case of a birth, the mother returns back to work and they have a little one at home who's sick, and they no longer have any sick time or personal time to care for that little one. Or if they just want to take a day off to spend with a newborn or an adopted child, we think that is super important and a value that Brevard Public Schools shares with us. We think that the cost of this proposal is minimal. Essentially, the cost is that of a substitute because the teacher salary is already budgeted. Also, this would not impact many births or adoptions that happen over the summer. And there are some teacher positions that necessarily don't require a substitute. For instance, maybe if you're a Title I teacher or a position like that, you would not even have a substitute. So now reading through the proposal, what it says is parental leave, it would be a new number 7, up to 10 days of parental leave shall be granted to any teacher within 30 days of the date of delivery or adoption of a child. A, such leave shall only be available during the school year. B, this leave cannot be banked or sold. C, an application for leave accompanied by a written statement from a licensed medical physician verifying the pregnancy and setting forth the estimated date of birth shall be submitted to the principal no later than 5 calendar weeks prior to the estimated date of child's birth. In the case of adoption, a written application for such leave shall be submitted to the principal within 2 calendar weeks after approval for adoption by the recognized agency or source. So just to try to clarify a little bit on A, we're not asking that people are getting paid sick leave over the summer when they're not working. For B, we're not saying that these days could be banked and sold back at the end of the year. And then C, that follows our current maternity leave language, and we've just mirrored that. So with that said, do you have any questions?
Hang on just one second. I want to go back over the notes that you just gave us.
Sure.
Hold on just one second. Mr. Colucci, can you explain the 10 days, what you said about short-term disability?
Sure. So currently there is according to the schedule of benefits for short-term disability, there is a 14 calendar day elimination period, meaning you have to wait 14 days before short-term kicks in. So an employee without leave would not be receiving any pay for those 14 calendar days, 10 work days. So we're trying to fill that void of those 10 days without pay. Or what, as I mentioned, what teachers are having to do is use a good deal of their sick and personal time to get to that point of short term in order to fill the gap and make sure they're not missing out financially. But then when they come back, they're depleted a good deal, if not all, of their sick and personal time.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was my question.
Okay. All right. Would you like me to move on?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Well, really? No, yes, Mr. Colucci, please
Okay.
do so.
Okay. Our second proposal also deals with leaves of absence. This is revolving around an unpaid leave of absence. As you know, we've had many teachers, including annual contract teachers, go on leave because of COVID-19. We believe the idea of taking a leave rather than putting in for resignation is that you have your job when you return. We are surprised to learn that doesn't seem to be the case. We've had a little discussion where you suggested that because they did not have a summative, they won't have a summative part 1 at the end of this school year, that they will not be eligible for reappointment. They'll be encoded, as we say. That doesn't seem fair. Not even really sure if that's legal to tell somebody they're on leave for 1 year and then tell them they don't have a job. It may be. I'm not trying to make an accusation. I'm just not sure of that. With this proposal, I mean, perhaps there's better phrasing to it, but I'm hopeful that we could come to some sort of understanding, because I would just hate to see these annual contract teachers who went on leave this year only because of the pandemic to come back or think they're coming back to Brevard Public Schools to learn that because they did not have a summative one, they can't be reappointed. So the actual proposal says it's number 5, personal or exhausted sick leave. A, personal leave without pay may be granted to teachers up to 1 school year at the board's discretion. That is the current language that's in there. And then what I've added in is beginning with the 2020-21 school year, annual contract teachers who take such leave shall be automatically reappointed and will not be subject to the terms of Article 6, Section F, annual contract reappointment. Because I believe that's the sticking point is, Dr. Green, you're looking at the annual contract reappointment language. You're seeing that the summative one is required, but they don't have a summative one. So we're hoping that we could figure out a way to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else with that?
Not from me.
Okay. All right, now, hopefully this is going to be an easy one here. Okay. Last year, when we agreed to some changes in early release, and then we approved the language, we forgot to cross one thing out. And you and I have talked about this previously, and it's not been an issue in practice, but we need the sentence removed to avoid confusion. Just as one early release Friday of each month may be used for site-based professional development at the discretion of the principal. That doesn't make sense anymore because they only have 3 per semester. So we're just looking, I think I know we both agreed to that already. We just need it out of the contract to avoid confusion in future years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving along, we have 2 proposals about comp time utilization. So in our MOA agreement, which is currently being voted on, by the way, this week, and will be done being voted on Friday, there was agreement to carry over additional leave, and in some circumstances, to use that additional leave, we want to see carry forward increased and utilization increased permanently. I think especially this year, it behooves all of us to allow teachers to use as much comp time as needed in order to slow the spread of COVID. We don't want anyone to be hesitant to take a sick day or a personal day because maybe they feel like they're running out. So we want them to feel that they have the time they need to stay at home. It's super important that folks are staying home if they're not feeling well. So we want to give them as much opportunity as they can for that. And on top of that, what we know already about this year, this is going to be a stressful year. It's, I think, day 6, and it feels like day 100 of the school year. And Dr. Green, you and I have had many, many talks about how important it is for our teachers to stay healthy with their mental health as well. And we've both been advocates of EAP and so on. So we just think that, teachers need to be able to take some mental health days this year, and we want the time available for them to do so. And, on top of that, I think we all know that we may be looking at some lean years ahead, and especially in lean years, comp time is a valuable and fair way to compensate, but we must be able to use that comp time. So we're asking that 6F says up to 24 hours currently. we're asking that it says up to 32 hours of unused compensatory time shall be carried forward to the next school year. And then G, we have up to 24 hours shall be available, and we're asking that it's 32 hours. Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, next one is our last language proposal. Did you smile when I said that?
I had just shared what I thought the number was, and yes, I smiled because I said the wrong number.
The language proposal, that is. Okay, and this.
Wait, but wait, Mr. Colucci, we're only doing language this evening, is that correct?
Well, we have a supplement proposal, and we are going to pass a salary proposal to you, but we're not expecting an answer on that tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so this I hope is another easy one. It's our summer employment, Article 25. Right now, we have preferential treatment for continuing contract and professional service contract teachers to get the summer employment over annual contract teachers. As we have more and more annual contract teachers, some who have been with BPS for over a decade at this point, we want to eliminate this and make sure that all our teachers, regardless of contract type, have preference for summer employment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to move on to our supplements proposal. You are aware that we had a supplements committee working throughout the year. They did a tremendous amount of work, this committee, and we had, as I mentioned, Rodney Savickas was on the committee, kind of giving us a high school perspective. We had Melissa Woods giving us a resource teacher perspective. We had Mary Johnson from South Lake giving us an elementary music perspective, and Peg DeRoy from Johnson Middle School giving us a middle school perspective. And we had met with you guys once or twice to discuss some things. Like I said, they really did a lot of work, and we know that this is a rather lean year financially, so we did par down the work some. And I'm going to have Rodney take it over in a minute, but I just want to say that many of the changes that we're suggesting, we believe, are positions that are already getting supplements that are not listed in our current supplement schedule. I mean, for instance, like a bowling coach is not in this the current supplement schedule, but we know there's a bowling supplement. So that kind of thing. We've added some more positions in here, and I think there was only one where, when we compare to, there's actually two, when we were looking at other districts, it was way out of line, and we felt the need to bring it up. So let me share my screen with the supplements, and Kyle, can you unmute Rodney if you've not done so already? And Rodney is going to take us through this.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to share this with you. What we've done was, I believe in our first meeting with Dr. Green, she asked us to separate the supplements down to different categories. So what we did, unlike the last contract, you'll see it's broken down into categories that make more sense. For example, the co-curricular, the professional, the extracurricular, and the athletics, and then the pay for performance as we go down the list there. When we look up top, what's in blue is what we're asking for a change. Right now, Anthony, do you want me to go by just the changes and list by list, or how would you like me? Okay.
Yeah, just go through the changes starting with co-curricular on down.
Very good. So there are three major changes with co-curricular, and those are teachers that this deals with teachers with their students in the classroom within the teaching day. The art teachers, they are expected, encouraged, and sometimes commanded to do these art fairs, whether at the mall or at the school board office. And what in the past they've only received comp time. It seems only fair that we need to pay for their time to do all this stuff for the school board, because it is reaching out into our community. It's not a lot, but it's more than that they've ever received in the past. With the band, we came up with the idea of our marching band versus our traditional high school where they have a marching band versus they don't have a marching band. If you are at West Shore and Edgewood, you do not do marching band, yet you got the same supplement. So what we did was we separated the two, and we gave the marching band, the band, one supplement, and then if you did marching band, you got an additional supplement because you're doing much more work in camps, whereas those in the schools that do not have marching band do not do that. Also, we suggested that for the theater program, that we create a supplement for an assistant. In a lot of areas, there are assistants, and this would be at the discretion of the theater director to hire a choreographer or a costumer. It's something to assist them in a show, and then that's just one person. And then also, the school board has asked us to do assessments, whether you do MPAs or theater performance assessments. These are outside the school, even though they work in the classroom. The teachers are expected to go to these events, and that's why we put the music and theater performance assessments as an additional. Are there any questions about the co-curricular segment here?
Yes, I have a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with the art fair question.
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, at our elementary level, an elementary principal has the option to add a number of positions, and with approval from Leading and Learning, those people are paid for whatever it is that they might do. So for example, right now, science fair is one of those things that I don't believe is on the supplement schedule, but as an elementary principal, I can say, you're one of my 5 special programs, and I can pay the science fair teachers in by that. And I believe that that's how we are paying all of our science fair at the elementary level through that process. So my question is, are there art fair teachers now that are getting one of those supplements that the elementary principals are allowed to identify as specific to their school?
When we reached out to the art teachers, I did not receive one affirmative in that they were receiving a supplement through one of those extra, like you did with what you're talking about, the science fair. I do not know of one, and they did not respond back to that. So to answer your question, to my knowledge, I don't know of any art teacher receiving that supplement from this school. They did not tell us when we reached out to them. But my question is that, never mind. Go ahead.
My next question has to do with the MPAs that you mentioned.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you talking about MPAs that we host in our district, or are you suggesting that if a teacher wants to judge an MPA, for example, that's held over in Miami or down in Miami, over in Tampa, wherever, because we go to a number of different places, that we are paying them because they're volunteering to go to somebody else's MPAs that they're hosting?
No.
And
No,
Okay.
that's
Can you be
why
more
it's-
clear on
that's-
that, please?
That's why it's only $350. This is just those MPAs hosted within our district. An example is the chorus, orchestra, and band will do their music performances as well as their solo and ensemble within the district. Theater, we have Osceola Brevard and Indian River. That's within our district. That's usually held like at Merritt Island or here at Melbourne High School. So this is not stuff. This is not a state function. This is within our own district, which we are asking for the supplement for.
Okay, and then I understand the band and the marching band. I understand that. So I understand the things that are in blue. Did you remove any from the list? Which I don't, it doesn't matter to me if you did or didn't. I'm just curious. Do you remember taking any that are in the current contract and removing them?
I don't think we removed them from the list. I can't ask, my screen is frozen to get the contract because I had the old contract out for that. Oh, is there a particular category you're talking about?
No. I was just curious because like I'm also, I didn't find one. I just was curious if you remember doing that. I do remember that we talked at one point in a meeting about how, when we were establishing, guidelines and stuff, that there were some things that were obsolete.
Correct. And not dealing with the co-curricular that I'm aware of. I don't know why. I guess because we're sharing the view screen, it won't let me clear out of it. And
I
do
was
apologize.
just curious. And of course I'll go through and we'll match and we'll take care of that. I just was curious if you knew of any. But other than that, I don't have any more questions.
I don't think that we removed anything from the supplement schedule.
Okay,
In
thank you.
the whole proposal.
Okay, thank you. Continue on, Mr. Rodney.
Okay, thank you. For the in the professional, what we've primarily done was we've given the we're making a recommendation where we're giving kind of like what you alluded to earlier about the elementary school principals giving that art fair and not art fair, science fair, giving them these special programs, 5 supplements per school, whether at the high school, middle school, or at the elementary school for $500. And then Partners in Education, a $500 supplement. Those are the only changes that we did when we created the professional grid. Remember, when we look at the full contract, all of this was in alphabetical order in any in no category. So we took the entire list and made them into different categories. So this deals with students, teachers dealing directly within students in the classroom, or with the administration.
And that the elementary special programs already exist in the current supplement schedule. So we've added in the middle school and high school, and we've upped it $42 just to make it around $500.
Anthony, was it 5 at the elementary school?
It was $458, yes, and 5 programs for $458.
Thank you. Then, are there any other questions about the professional grid?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then we're going to go to the extracurricular. Here, we've added some things that we felt that was being neglected, and again, some of this was probably used by the elementary school teacher, principal, to help pay for that. But to have it on there just to make sure that they're getting compensated, to add an honor society for elementary school and science fair for the elementary school, as well as student government. And we've added at the high school level, Winter Guard. Right now, Winter Guard is, for the most part, it doesn't exist. They do have Winter Guard, and a lot of times the Booster Club helps pay for that, but this is just a supplement just for the Winter Guard for the marching bands. And that is the extracurricular that we're proposing. There should be no other changes.
So here's another question.
Yes, ma'am.
At a high school, I have utilized the dance for Winter Guard or the flag, but I don't see the flag here. So did you have anybody that talked about dance?
Dance is a,
I did already.
Oh, did you? All right.
Dance
Dance-
is up there. It's on line 47. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that.
yeah, but that the dance corps and Winter Guard are totally two different organizations. That's like saying chemistry and algebra. They're totally two different. Here at Melbourne, you have the Miracles. I'm going to just give you the example of Melbourne High School. You have the Miracles who compete in the dance corps, and they are separate, completely separate organization from the marching band and Winter Guard. There is no connection whatsoever. And
I
then
would just be curious. So I don't know what time it is. I don't know if Bert is still on this call because he had another engagement with Brevard Public Schools this evening at 5 o'clock. But I'm not familiar with many high schools who have a dance corps, but I am familiar with almost all of them that have a flag or a Winter Guard program. So I'm just curious, do you know of any others besides Mel High?
I do know Satellite has a dance program there. I'm not sure if they compete like Melbourne High School. We did not reach out to the other schools about the Anthony. Do we know of any other that? I cannot answer that because I just assumed that they had the dance competition that we do here at Melbourne High School. They go out and compete separately. They also provide a service not only during the fall sports, but during the winter sports at basketball games. And I do know that other schools have that. Shall I reach out and get that information back to you?
No, I can do that, but thank you for the offer, but I will do that.
And I'd just like to know, we're not removing anything there. We're just adding on.
Right, I understand. Okay, thank you for that discussion. Athletics.
Okay, thank you. Here we've added, when we reached out to the athletic, the ADs, we got a lot of interesting feedback from the middle schools. How they've been kind of neglected over the years. And so we'd like to we'd like to create the athletic director at the middle school, which is really the activities director. We want to add bowling. We know that bowling has existed, but they were not a supplement on our list here. Then if you scroll down, we have a little bit more of the lacrosse and the assistant lacrosse. From what we gather, from the information I can get, is that lacrosse was a pilot program that was funded, and that funding has stopped. So that means if we want to continue doing lacrosse, and then middle school volleyball. Now the question about the Anthony asked us earlier this week about the money for the middle school volleyball and soccer, and is this intramurals, and we agreed that it was going to be the same as another. I don't have those figures, Anthony. Do you know those figures for the middle school volleyball and soccer?
Yeah, they're $500. We put them at $500, the same amount as the extra supplements that would be given to the elementary, middle school, and high schools. The special, equal to the special program.
Okay, and I saw that, but if you look on the next column for the 6-year plus, it says $1,400.
Oh yeah, that's just a
Okay.
typo.
Very
Thank
good.
you,
So I
Robin.
just wanted to clarify, because I don't want them to see that they're getting a really great boost, and that's wonderful. But that's not going to be that for that.
Yes, thank you. That was a typo. And I did just want to mention that we left the lacrosse supplements with question marks because we know they're getting a supplement and we cannot figure out what it was. So we're asking you to tell us what they're currently getting.
Okay,
Yeah, because it's not in our contract. It was part of some sort of grant from the research that I.
right. Yes, the district doesn't pay it. Yes.
So, so the question is, can we find that out so we can put that into the contract?
Yes, I will find out.
Thank you. And that is all of the added stuff for athletics. Are there any questions about that?
Not at this time.
Anthony, could you just possibly change the volleyball middle school second
yeah.
view?
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, sir. I appreciate it. And then the last proposal is for the pay for performance, the mentor teacher. That's for the from what I can remember in our discussion, that is for the I really can't remember. Is this the head mentor, or you want to?
No,
take this,
Rodney,
Anthony?
I'll take this.
I appreciate it.
So these are for school-based mentor teachers. They're currently receiving $165 for doing a whole lot of work. We know that this is very, very low compared to other districts. I know that folks working in Mike Alba's department would like to see this increased because it's a lot of work, a lot of time that's given up by mentor teachers, and it is extremely valuable for our district in order to be able to retain teachers. We've discussed numerous times that you don't have a recruitment problem if you don't have a retention problem. So mentor teachers are vital in retaining our teachers. They work super hard, and $165 is not nearly enough. You're on mute still.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay. Any questions about that?
So there were a couple above soccer that also went from 500 to 1404. Did you change those as well, or just starting, keep going up? There were a couple more I thought I saw.
No, the cheerleading and such.
No, they were in blue. Maybe I didn't. He changed. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Rick says you changed it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any more questions about the supplement schedule?
No, and by the way, they did do a great job of researching and putting that in a package. I do appreciate that. Not that we're accepting it whole scale, but I do appreciate the work that they've put in over the last year.
And, and I'm just, let me say, it's been 5 years since we've increased the whole salary schedule. We know it's overdue, but now, unfortunately, we're not in a great place financially, and we're aware of that. However, we feel like making these corrections will be a start of getting us in the right direction. And another thing that we didn't say is by putting them in these categories, athletics, extracurricular, professional, co-curricular, we can, at another time, better see where there are disparities. It allows you to say, wait a second, why is this in this category so much lower than this, which is in the same category? So by putting them in this format, when we are in a better financial position as a district, we'll be able to correct them easier. Because we realize there are many, many inequities in this, and we need to fix them at some point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. The final piece I have is our salary proposal. As I mentioned before, we're not expecting you guys to respond to this tonight. We've had 2 or 3 workshops with you guys where we've come to a common understanding of what the teacher salary allocation means, the parameters around it. We've requested and received the data we needed to figure out a proposal. For folks listening, this is the governor's alleged 47.5 proposal, but we also know that that language said as close to 47.5 as possible as the minimum salary, and that they did not necessarily send enough to reach that point, and they didn't. So the law surrounding this was confusing. Took a lot of time for all of us to figure out. The state sent one pot of money with about $9 million in there, which we call the 80 pot, because that was 80% of the money they sent for the teacher salary allocation. And they said that this 80 pot is only for classroom teachers, using the antiquated definition of classroom teachers that's found in state statute, making less than $47,500. And then they sent about $2.25 million, what we call the 20 pot, and said this is for everybody making over 47.5, as well as everybody else who's not a classroom teacher. So one of our biggest values was to make sure that we don't end up with two pay scales. We, as a union, we do not want to see a starting salary for a classroom teacher that is not the same starting salary for a school counselor, a social worker, a media specialist, a resource teacher. So we want everybody to have the same minimum pay. So we've studied the law. We've met with the Florida Education Association numerous times. We've got legal advice. We've talked to you guys, and we have a proposal that we believe meets the intention of the law, and is one that BPS can afford. So let me pull that up on my screen. Oh, actually, so I have it on the bottom of the language proposals. So our proposal is to bring the minimum salary up to $45,500. That means no one in our bargaining unit, regardless of your title, would make less than $45,500. Everyone would at least reach to that minimum. Let me be very clear. Nobody will be making less than that. There's some kind of confusion that a brand new teacher is going to make more than a veteran teacher. That's simply not true. And our proposal will ensure that that doesn't happen. Now, the goal of this teacher salary allocation was to bring up the minimum salary. So what we've done is we've put a higher percentage at the bottom of this scale, a higher percentage raise. So teachers with district years of service of 1 year, and I'll have Kyle talk about district years of service and so on in a minute, would receive a 13% raise. Those with 2 years of service would receive an 11% raise. 3 years of service would receive a 9% raise. 4 years of service, 8% raise, and 5 years of service, 7% raise. And those are all on their actual salaries. An actual 13% raise on their salary, 11, 9, 8, 7. Because of pay for performance and some other factors, teachers with the same amount of years can be making different amounts of money. So we want to give them a true percentage raise on that end. Now, all of that would be paid for with the $9 million, the big pot of money there. Now, what we are proposing for everyone over 47, well, let me backtrack. I need to correct myself. That would mostly be paid for with the big pot of money. Those non-classroom teachers making less than 47.5, that would have to come out of the 20 pot or elsewhere. So everyone else making over $47,500, we are asking for a reasonable but good raise of $1,300. Now, there is no pay for performance because there were no evaluations last year. So every teacher over that amount would make an additional $1,300. Underneath that, you'll see that we have a star there that says all teachers will receive at least a raise of $1,300. What that means is if you are below 47.5, there's some funky things going on with years of service and your pay. So what we want to do is make sure you at least get a $1,300 raise. There's some oddities where maybe a fifth-year teacher is already making 45,500. I'll have Kyle explain that a little better as well because he really delved into the numbers. But we're going to ensure everybody would at least get a $1,300 raise. And final star is, I got to reiterate again, nobody would be making, regardless of your job description, if you are in the BFT bargaining unit, you would not be making less than $45,500. Kyle, do you want to add into that?
I would just add, I would repeat what you were saying about our goal to make sure that everybody's treated the same in the BFT bargaining unit. And secondly, Dr. Green might understand this more than most people, but I'm basing the district years of service off of the Excel sheet that we've been working on together that you've shared with me. You may think there's a better way to explain that, but I just went off of that. And the reason why we went ahead and did the two things at the bottom was everyone's received a raise of at least $1,300, and no teacher will make less than $45,500, is because there is quite a few anomalies when you start looking at all the different salaries. You know, all the first year teachers might have 2 or 3 different salaries, but by the time we get to a 4th or 5th year teacher, just because of leave and valuations, there's a huge disparity inside that one group. So we thought that this would be the easiest way to address that disparity, and along with the hopes of like a first year teacher couldn't leapfrog a 5th year teacher, because we didn't want to create any more of those incidents where we worked really hard last year in the fix leapfrogging. So if you have any questions, Dr. Green, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
No, but I do have a statement before the question. Just when Kyle says sharing data, that's all public record, and Kyle has requested through the proper procedure to get that data. So I just want to point that out in the guise of bargaining, like we're just not handing over all this stuff. Kyle followed all the proper procedures to get those documents. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, nobody dropped it at my doorstop, Dr. Green. You are correct.
So you started to touch on it at the very end when you said about leapfrogging. I'm really concerned how you say it would prevent leapfrogging. In fact, if I'm looking at the salary schedules, the pay for performance ranges, let's say someone on, let's just say that because of the ranges that are there, if I'm at the top of the range for EE, I'm over someone who's at the bottom of the range for FF. So I'm just
Well, that that person at FF would receive a raise as well. What I will say is I don't think that there's any perfect scenario, but when I ran this against the publicly attained information from public records request, when I didn't see any leapfrogging. Now I'm not going to promise with 5,000 employee, almost 5,000 members of the bargaining unit, that won't happen, but that was the goal.
Okay, hold on. We may have another question. Hold on one sec. Kyle, on your spreadsheet, is there a lowest percentage increase when you've added the 1,300 to, would that be the people that are the highest paid are going to get the lowest percentage of an increase?
Yeah, because once we get above 47.5, the people at the very high scale would get a lower percentage increase because it's a flat dollar rate. I could pull it up if you want to know exactly the amount, but I know that $1,300 raise starts at about 2.5% at 47.5, and then gets a little bit under 2% on the very high end of the scale.
So, Mr. Colucci, you said that not all of this proposal is coming from House Bill 641 salary allocation, that you believed that the 80% pot was probably true to the allocation, but the non-classroom teacher 20% and the over 47.5 are melded in with district dollars.
So
Did I understand that correctly?
Anthony, if you don't mind, I'll
Yeah.
expand on that a little bit. So we believe that the 80% is correctly true to the 80% pot. So, however, we do understand that asking for a $1,300 raise for all employees and covering those non-classroom teachers does go a little bit above the 20% pot. But I want to point out three things actually. One is based on the publicly attained records that we got from the end of the year last year. I believe that there's probably less employees in there today than there was at that time. Secondly, we did not look at federally funded positions. And when we've met in workshops before, the wonderful CFO has said that Title I has already been told the budget for federally funded positions. And finally, just from running the numbers from May, it is our belief that it's going to cost about $700,000 to make that disparity so that nobody is on different pay scales. And we believe that the district should be as should agree with us on that they don't want two different pay scales for somebody that's a classroom teacher and somebody that's a media specialist. That is just unbelievable equity, and we don't think it should happen. And inequity, I'm sorry.
I heard 80% true to the salary allocation. I heard 1,300 for non-classroom teachers true to the, or a little bit would have to come. What about the over 47.5? That of course is all district money, so not salary allocation money.
Well, hold on, Dr. Green. I think we got a little confused there. If the district says that they're going to cover the part for 700,000 to make everybody equitable, I believe at most a couple 100,000 would be required to cover the 47, everybody above 47.5. I believe 90 to 95% of that money would come from the 20% pot. And I would just also like to say that's based on calculations off of the numbers in May and doesn't include those federally funded positions being pulled out.
So Kyle, to be clear, above what the state has provided in total, it would be a few 100,000 extra for the district. Is that what you're saying?
I think what Dr. Green was doing was separating the two, where she was saying how much was it going to cost to make everybody equitable, and I think that would be $700,000 from the district, about $700,000, and altogether I believe it's a little under $1 million that we're asking for the district to put forward. We do understand that this is a tough year because of COVID, and we do understand that there's still unclear funding position, pictures and student enrollment, but we also know that I believe the district has already set aside some money for compensation, So we're just asking them to make it equitable for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Did you have any other questions about the salary proposal?
I do not right at this time.
Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Green.
So then I was just gonna ask my team if you had any additional comments about any of the proposals and you wanted to unmute, feel free, because I went through all of them, and if I left anything off that you think needs to be said, now's your time. Okay, I don't hear anyone, so it's on you, Dr. Green.
Okay, so I have to, give me a minute. I have to get to my screen.
And I'm going to stop Anthony from sharing, so you'll be able to share, Dr. Green.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Can you email me that document right there that you're working out of?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right. So it's interesting that you had a calendar proposal for number 6, because we also had a calendar proposal for number 6. One of our issues is time for professional development. And I do believe that you probably have recognized that and seen that with this past pre-planning time, where we have truly lost the ability to provide much needed professional development to our teachers. And so we also struck that question or that statement about one early release Friday of each month be used for site-based professional development. But the reason that we did that is we are interested in increasing to 5 Friday early release days a semester to go back to PD. We have, the changes from the state come very fast and furiously at all levels. And we have to have an opportunity to work with our teachers on programs and curriculum and expectations that the state puts out. I think we all know how quickly that happens, and they expect us to institute things on a dime, and we just don't have the opportunity to get with our teachers. So that is our first proposal, is that we increase the professional development on early release Fridays to no more than 10 a year and 5 each semester.
So, Dr. Green, one of my concerns is that sometimes teachers or oftentimes teachers are doing professional development and they are not getting any in-service points for it. And it may be an issue that because we missed face-to-face for much of the year last year, that folks are having some issues making sure they have enough in-service credit to recertify. Would there be any way you could guarantee that these professional developments come along with in-service points? Or I know sometimes I think they usually have to be either, is it 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that, to qualify for in-service, but would there be a way to ensure that if we were going to go any further with this?
I'm pretty sure that we could do that. I will check with the professional development people, but just having most recently been in a building a couple years ago, what we did with our early release in services was to create a semester long class. And then when you do the end of the semester, you've got more than your, just that hour on the Fridays. And so if we were to agree to this, I would, let me check with PLD to make sure that that's their understanding, and we would work with principals to establish a class for each of the semesters to include the in-service points for the teachers.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yes.
So 8 is just to it's also under calendar, and it is to clean up some of the language. Back in the 18-19 school year, we took that day between semesters and we moved it between grading periods 1 and 2. And so whereas 8 under calendar used to read that the day between semesters and the post-planning day will be at the teacher's discretion, since item number 11 in the contract states that we've changed that to be the in-between grading periods 1 and 2, we rewrote 8 to make that match. Beginning with the 2018-19 school year, as long as all responsibilities, including checkout procedures, have been completed, the day between the first and second grading periods and the post-planning day will be at the teacher's discretion as defined in paragraph 11 of the calendar. And all we're trying to do is make that language match.
Okay, so just so I'm understanding correctly, they would not lose the day as being discretionary. It would
Correct.
just.
We just identified it as we did in 11. We identified it to be, I'm trying to find it in the contract. Hang on 1 second. So in the contract, 11 says, beginning with the 2018-19 school year, 1 student day shall be planned for the end of the first quarter and the end of the third quarter within the period of times when grades are due. To comply with the parties' intent and while maintaining the right of both parties contained in this agreement, the parties agree that the teacher workday student holiday between the first and second semester after the holiday break in January may be moved to the day between the first and second quarter. The day in January may now become a non-work day for teachers. As long as the day is still a work day for 12-month employees, teachers will be permitted to come on campus if they choose. This change is to remain in perpetuity unless the parties negotiate otherwise.
Okay.
So we're just moving that discretionary day to the first and second grading period.
So so it says beginning with 18-19 school year, as long as the responsibilities, including checkout procedures, have been completed, the day between the first and second grading periods and the post-planning day will be at the teacher's discretion.
So you still get your 2 days. You still get the 2 days. We made that January day a non-work day.
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, so because I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to figure out if the language makes sense because we're talking about checkout procedures. The checkout procedures is only for the last day of the year.
Yes, but that's what the language already said. If you see, I crossed off as long as checkout procedures have been completed. That was already there in the language.
Okay. All right.
So I just moved it.
over in the contract, but you could go on.
Okay. Hang on, because I did these on separate pages. The next one is the ROTC, the infamous ROTC language.
Oh, yeah.
So we have rewritten the article related to ROTC, and it was just much easier to start from scratch. So we've crossed out all that language, and there are a couple of repeats, but what this language does is bring the contract into current practice. So new language. There are 3 types of G employees, and of course our G employees are our JROTC employees. Each of the 3 types follows a specific days of service calendar. GA is defined as your 10-month employee, and it follows the teacher calendar and incorporates 196 paid days, defined as 190 work days and 6 holiday annual leave days. These days of service calendar, as you remember, are on the website under human resources, and all of the days of calendar they are written every year to incorporate our beginning and our end date based on what the school calendar is. The G7 employee is an 11-month employee. A G7 employee begins their work year 10 workdays prior to the beginning of pre-planning and ends their work year 10 days after the last day of post-planning. That is currently what it states in the contract, and that is what the 11-month ROTC employee does. Anything in this agreement to the contrary notwithstanding, the days of service calendar for 11-month employees shall be the calendar the G7 employees follow. This calendar includes 218 paid days defined as 211 work days and 7 holiday annual leave days. No change to that. All we did was move the definition up into the first clause. GL is the 12-month employee. This calendar includes 245 or 246, depending upon the year, paid days defined as 238 or 239 work days and 7 holiday annual leave days. And that goes with, where weekends fall, whether you have 245 or 246 work days. Contract year B, the contract year for type B employees shall be July 1 through June 30th. Work days are specified in the annual days of service calendar for each group. C, salary. The board shall pay type G employees the difference between their active duty pay, including allowances, which are an appropriate part thereof, as designated by the branch of the employee's military service, and their retirement pay from the military, provided the board is reimbursed 1/2 of the cost of the same from the military. Again, not new language, just move. Type G employees shall receive rank differentials as provided in Article 7, effective the 1986-87 school year. In the event a JROTC teacher's active duty pay would be less than the amount he or she would receive as a Type E employee, the JROTC shall receive the higher amount. Not a change, just move. Minimum instructor pay, or MIPS, for all branches of service is calculated from information provided from instructor's branch of service. Provided that all information has been supplied by the Defense Finance and Accounting Services, or DFAS, adjustments will be made to the base salary in April of each year. Overpayments and or underpayments made due to miscalculations or errors in information provided by DFAS will require adjustments to affected instructor's base salary. District will be held harmless for errors made by DFAS. D, in the event a Type G employee is paid from the teacher salary schedule, his or her work week shall increase from 37, not 30 even, 37.5 hours to 40 hours. Type G employees shall earn no administrative leave. F, specific to the JROTC branch of the Air Force, upon separation from the district of current 11-month or G7 airmen or airwomen, the newly hired airman or airwoman will serve in a 10-month GA position. That is currently happening, and that is from the Air Force. That is a mandate from the Air Force. Specific to the JROTC branch of the Army, upon separation from the district of a current 12-month GL Army soldier, the newly hired soldier will serve in a 10-month GA position. Also, that is from the Army. H, effective July 1 of each year, Type GL employees shall be credited with paid vacation leave at accrual rate of 2½ days for each calendar month. 2½ hang on a minute. For each calendar month, the teacher is regularly employed. Vacation days shall not be used on those days designated as work days as provided herein. Type G employees shall receive no reimbursement for such loss of accrued vacation leave. Vacation day accrual resets to 0, July 1st of each fiscal year. A GL instructor whose contract year ends June 30th and whose last workday is June 30th or prior, but whose retirement date is July 31, receives his or her respective accrued vacation pay for that fiscal year ending June 30th. 12-month type GL employees may be eligible for vacation pay on their last year of service based on the month of separation. The daily rate of pay for type D employees shall be computed at 1/245th or 1/246 of their applicable annual salary, again, depending on the work days in a year. And advanced degree supplements will be paid in compliance with Article 17D.
All right, so I have some questions, and I'm sure I'm going to have more questions. But first of all, so currently our JROTC instructors do receive our raises, our pay for performance raises. Will
Yes.
any of this language change how they're paid as far as raises go?
No.
Right. Piece you had about overpayment and underpayment.
Say that again.
About overpayment and underpayment.
So
So-
you might, oh, I'm sorry, was there a question in there?
Yes.
I didn't know if you had heard. Okay.
So it kind of says if there's an underpayment to the employee, oh well. What?
No, that's not what that means at all. So
Okay.
we make our calculation changes in April based on the MIPS, as you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the DFAS will find that they have either overpaid or underpaid the employee. And then we are required to make a second recalculation. If they have underpaid an employee, we take care of that and we pay that. We get that taken care of. If we have overpaid an employee, we recoup that because that is directly from the military. What the hold harmless is that, we can't be blamed, I guess, for DFAS miscalculations. Like, we're going to take care of it because that's all military money, but you can't fault us when the DFAS people gave us the wrong information. And we've had a situation recently where it took a long time to get resolved because of a DFAS error. And ultimately, I think it was resolved, but we can only do with a adjustment to a salary based on what the military provides us. And that's all that says.
Okay. All right. And moving along to where you're talking about upon separation from the district, I'm really confused as to what that's referring to. From
Are you talking about vacation?
no, like for G, specific to the JROTC branch of the Army
Oh,
upon
okay.
separation from the
So-
district, like so.
So the military has cut their funding for JROTC programs. And in their contract, it says, and we had a specific one this summer, and I believe it was Army. I'm not going to swear that it was Army, but I'm pretty sure it was astronaut and Rockledge. Do you know if they have Army?
I'm not sure.
So it's Army. The Army has said to us, we can no longer afford 12-month employees for your ROTC programs. And they've said it across the country, not just to Brevard Public Schools. Like, we are cutting our ROTC people to 10-month people. We've grandfathered everyone in until they separate from your district. If they transfer schools in your district, we'll keep them at 12 months. So we had a Army soldier, I believe an officer, at astronaut who transferred to Rockledge this year. We kept him 12 months because he has not separated from the district. But the military says when a person separates from the district, we are replacing him with a 10-month employee because they are no longer paying for 12-month employees.
Okay. And then Scrolling down a little bit, if you stop there, GL employees shall be credited with paid vacation leave at an accrual rate of 2.5 days for each calendar month. So GL was 12-month. What did
Yeah.
GL?
So only the 12-month employees accrue vacation days.
Okay.
They get
So-
2.5. Go ahead.
So then A says they shall not be used on those days designated as work days.
That's in the current contract.
Right, and I thought that was a big issue because what happens is they never have an opportunity. If they're 12-month employees and they can't use them on work days, when can they use their vacation days?
So I would have to look at the work calendar, but I know exactly what you're talking about. But that is the practice, and that is in the, I'm pretty sure that's in the Air Force or the ROTC contract. I will look at that and have an answer for you when we come back together.
Okay, and then that takes me to HC there, vacation day accrual resets. So if they can't use it and it's resetting, but they can't sell them except if they're retiring, then they can only use those once in their whole career.
That's correct.
So
what happens is if a person leaves us, the year that they leave us, they get paid for their whatever vacation they have accrued. So
But-
if they leave us in October, they have accrued 2.5 days for July, August, and September, and possibly October, depending on when they leave us. If they leave us October 31st, they would accrue another 2.5. If they leave us at the end of the school year, June 30th, they would get paid for all 30 days of vacation. But they don't get paid for vacation any other time throughout their teaching here in JROTC.
well, okay, and so then, I go back to, well, my issue is they should be able to use their vacation days other than that, because then they're not vacation days except on the year that they are retiring.
I'll look into that and let you know when we come back together, and probably not this evening when we come back together, because I don't have access to those contracts.
Okay, all right. Like I said, I probably will have more questions about this next time as well.
Okay, should I go on?
Yes.
So I'm going to put this language out there for Article 16 welfare, but then I'm going to give one more, which is just a cosmetic change, and then I'm going to let Mark Langdorf speak about health proposal. So in the current contract, there is a clause which allows BFT to put 3 members of the Superintendent's Insurance Advisory Committee that is named by the union president or the designee. And it goes on to say that if the proportion of the teachers to non-teachers in the committee is altered, the president or designee shall have the right to name additional teachers so that the composition remains the same as it was in 81 and 82. So that committee does a lot of work, and it looks at a lot of data throughout the year. And the purpose of it is to recommend changes based on our self-funded insurance. And I know that we had some changes in the plan design a couple of years ago, and that there is a recommendation this year for some plan design as well. The new clause that we're proposing is if the Superintendent's Insurance Advisory Committee recommends changes to premium and/or plan design, and if that recommendation included affirmative vote by the union's committee members, the recommendation shall be incorporated into the contract for ratification. That's, excuse me, the proposal that we have. And again, I'll I'll let Mr. Langdorf, after I put this last one out there, go ahead and talk about all those changes which the Superintendent's Insurance Advisory Committee discussed this year.
Yeah, I would just say that I'm going to have a really tough time with that proposal. The work that we do on the SIAC committee is not in the capacity of bargaining. It is looking at the data, making some recommendations, essentially as a whole group, as a committee, and we would be giving away our right to negotiate over health insurance, which is something we're not going to do. And on top of that, to be clear, it's not been SIAC's fault or BFT's fault that these health insurance suggestions, changes are not presented to the superintendent in a more timely manner. It is, there's very slow responses at times from our consultants, from Cigna, from our benefits department, that really slows down the process. So this proposal seems to suggest that it's BFT's fault that these things are coming so late. Some of you have sat through these SIAC meetings, and you feel like you're watching a rerun because it will be the same meeting one after another. So I'm going to have a very hard time with that proposal.
So I don't mean at all to intend that it's anyone's fault whatsoever. I just know that we've had, at least in the 2 years that I've been involved, we've had some language on the table, which, well, even last year had been TA'd, but then was pulled back. And this year we're running up into a time sensitive issue, and I'll let Mr. Langdorf talk about the timing, but the committee is there for a reason. And again, we're not trying to take anybody's right to bargain away. And we clearly thought that we indicated that it would be still taken to the membership for ratification. Of course, that's through the time, that it goes to the vote, but it's difficult to, just from our perspective, it's difficult to get buy-in from everybody and then have to turn around again and go through all the same information. So we're not suggesting at all that it's BFT's fault in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I don't want you to get that.
And I understand that. I still feel like this is scapegoating issues that are district issues to the union. For instance, it was before your time when we had headed to impasse, but when there were health insurance changes previously being proposed, but that was because the HR folks at that time and leadership, they were wanting to meet once a month, do nothing when we met once a month. So I think that there should be more, I'll just say, more focus on how the district bargains and negotiates and the timetables and what could be done at the table to expedite bargaining rather than try to essentially bargain in insurance advisory committee's capacity. So I don't really think we need to talk about this anymore, and I'll be happy to hear what Mark needs to say.
Okay. And the last one is merely a cosmetic change, and you mentioned it in one of your proposals, that summer school is in Article 25. In the salary clause of our contract, we currently reference an article that doesn't exist. So it is under salary M, compensation for adult education, teaching, and/or summer school shall be determined by the board except as provided in Article 26, paragraph A. We don't have an Article 26, it's 25. So I'm just changing it or proposing that we change it to 25.
Okay.
Because there is no 26. With
All right.
that, I'm going to have Mr. Langdorf start sharing his screen, and I'm going to stop. And I will let him, or you will let him take over. I'm not sure how that happens.
Does everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. I'm quickly going to go over basically what happened to us over the past few years. For those who have not sat on the committee, over the past 6 years, we've not had any increases in revenue to the health plan. And as a result, you know, we had a fairly decent trust fund balance, which is what is required, but we've eaten into that. Actually, if you look back at our history, 3 years ago, we had $2.5 million more in claims than we had revenue that year. So we lost 2.5 that year. 2 years ago, the amount was about $900,000 in additional claim costs over revenue. And then this past year it was $4.9 million over the revenue. So we have really started to eat into the trust fund balance. And so that's kind of where I want to start, up on the top here. And if you can see the top part of this chart, you'll see that by December 31st of 2019, our trust fund balance was $9.2 million. And that sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. Unfortunately, to be self-insured in the state of Florida, the Department of Insurance, or Office of Insurance Regulation with the state of Florida, requires us to have 60 days worth of claims. Basically, the theory behind that is if the school board were to go out of business tomorrow, we need to have enough money in a trust fund to cover 60 days worth of claims. That's a requirement in order to stay self-insured. I know at one time the question was, well, you know, if we're having these issues, why don't we go fully insured? Last year when we did an RFP, we had one carrier submit a proposal to go to a fully insured plan, and that premium increase would have been a $20 million increase from what we're currently paying. So the committee that sat on the RFP elected to stay self-insured, and so this is where we have. What we're required to have this year is $11,673,000. So if you subtract that from our actual trust fund balance, we're about 2.462 million shy of what's required to have the 60 days. So that's what's showing up on top here. And that was as of December 31st. If you look and just start, we can just go down the line and I'll show you where we are in January. So in January, we moved that same amount, the 9.2, to the January. Then from January to June, what we're expecting to have, or what because we haven't closed the month of June yet, is to have a positive balance of $1,495, or $1,495. And that seems kind of strange because we're projecting such a huge loss in the next month. But here's what happens. The first 6 months of the year were actually paid in revenue for 7 months. So it looks like we have more money. The next 6 months out of the year, we actually get immediately following July 1, that money is spent. So that's why it's spread over the year's period of time. So we get double paid in June. We only get 5 months of revenue from July through December. So that's why this looks like we're doing well. But actually, if you look at from month to month, we're actually losing money even throughout this year, January through June. But on paper, it'll look like we had a revenue increase of $1.5 million. So by the end of June, we're projecting that the trust fund balance will be about 10.7 million. If you look at the 60 days based on the current claims expense in June, our 60-day requirement this year is $11.8 million. So that's how much we have to have by the end of June to report to the state. And in fact, our reporting period does run July 1 through June 30th. So as soon as the month of June closes, this amount or whatever is put there, whatever we have there in trust fund balance will be reported to the state. And like I say, if we don't have 60 days worth of claims, they could, depending on how much money we do have, they could either say you can no longer be self-insured, or they could tell us you need to draft a plan on how you're going to correct this, or we can circumvent that by saying this is the plan that we're going to move forward with to make sure that we have the 60 days, if not this year, next year, or the year beyond. So that's kind of where we will end in June. And so if you look at this with a trust fund balance of 10.7, a 60-day requirement of 11.8, we're projecting that by the end of June, when June actually closes, we'll have about $1.1 million. Then if you look at July 1 through December, our trust fund balance of 10.7 million will be subtracting all of the losses. So what Aon, our actuary, is projecting is for the year, we'll lose about $9.5 million in claims. So we will end December with about $1.1 million. Our 60-day trust fund balance by the end of, or requirement by the end of December, will be about $12 million. So you subtract that from the 1.1, and you can see what Aon is projecting our 60-day fund is going to be shy of at about 10.9. If you look at 2021, it carries on down. So you take the $1.1 million, you subtract their projected loss for next year. So what they're saying is by the end of June next year, we'll be down about $200,000. You take the 60 days worth of claims that end in June of 2021, which is going to be $12.5 million, and we will be down about $12.7 million. These are based on the projections. And then they carried this on through 2021 through December 21, and it carries down the same. So you take the 196, which is a fund balance in July, you subtract what the projected loss is going to be for 2021 of 12.3. You add that to the projected trust fund balance that we should have, and you come up with, by December 2021, we'll be in the hole $25.6 million from that trust fund amount. So that's what we looked at as the SIAC committee earlier this year. And so the thought is, what can we do to address that, which is found here. The SIAC
Mark,
committee.
can I ask you, Mark, can you hold on one second?
Sure.
You talked about when we went for bid, which I was on that committee as well, and we had the one bid for fully insured. How much more did that cost? I think you said $20 million.
It was about $20 million more than what we're currently paying.
For like a 3-year contract?
No, it would have been 1 year at a time.
One year at a time. Yeah, right. I'm just asking that because, that's a common question that we get. And I always, tell people we looked into it. It's not cheaper. And when we got the bid, it was $20 million more per year. And this other thing I wanted to ask you is, where are the June numbers? When will those be available? I mean, I just play devil's advocate here. I don't understand how Aon could project out until July or December 2021, but they don't know what happened in June. So,
well, when accounting closes June, that's when we will have that number, because the actual June closure rate is done by our accounting department. I think they're close to having that closed at this time, but they're looking at all of the payments that still need to be made, how much needs to be put in, to cover losses in certain areas. And I know accounting is working on that now. I suspect that June will be closed probably within the next couple of weeks. That's what that's my expectation is at this point.
And I just add into that, Dr. Green, that is the kind of thing that really is slowing down bargaining over health insurance. So I'll just add that in, and Mark, you can continue.
Okay. I do want to say this. What Aon was using, their assumptions are on the bottom there. They're assuming through 20, our medical trend would be about 6%, with pharmacy about 6.4. It's probably a little bit less than that. It's probably more like 5%, maybe 5.4%. So we're actually running a little better than the projection, but at the time they were just using those trend assumptions back in the early part of the year.
Mark, I'm sorry. So 2015 was the last premium increase. Is that correct?
Yes, That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. So the SIAC, and I put this chart up, and I know you haven't seen this before, Anthony, because we named our two different plans just to give it an easier way to do it. The SIAC committee, which is made up obviously of both the teacher, the 1010, and non-bargaining employees, they're part of the committee. In addition to that, there's one board member who does not vote, but that board member sits on the committee. Myself and one other individual from cabinet sits there, but we do not vote on the outcomes either. But every board member has a representative. So that's the basic makeup of the SIAC committee. The BFT has 3 representatives on that committee. But if you look at, I wanted to illustrate this because I think this is important. So if you look at this on the comparison, this is our current, what I'm circling with my mouse here, is what our current 2020 plan is. And we basically had the same plan for about 6 years now. So you can see where the annual deductibles are. And that's if you have if you do the biometric and the health assessment, you can get it down to $750 for the employee and $1,250 for the family, the coinsurance of 20%, the out-of-pocket maximums, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the current plan here. What the committee looked into is providing 2 options this year, and I'm calling, or we looked at how we can differentiate them utilizing the Affordable Care Act's definitions, actually, which I think make it a lot easier for people because we're offering a gold plan and a silver plan. The gold plan is basically the plan that we currently have. It's the Cigna's OAP plan. So it's basically all of our current authorized providers in Brevard County and outside of the county. So this plan is basically the OAP plan. And in that, we have made some plan design changes. So if you want to continue seeing any of the doctors that are currently on the Cigna plan, that's what the plan design would be. So in other words, I'll just kind of go through this. Currently, if you did your biometric and your health assessment, your wellness, your annual calendar year deductible will move from $750 to $1,500 for the employee. $1,250 for the family is moving up to $3,000, and on down the line in that particular area. So you can see the pricing differences in here to here. Everything in red is an increase. So you can see the co-insurance stayed exactly the same, except for those who are out of network. It's going from 40 to 50. If you're looking at the annual out-of-pocket maximum, it's going from $4,500 to $5,500 for the employee-only plan, and $9,000 to $11,000 for the family plan. The difference here when it comes to primary care office visits and specialty visits are, and I think this is important, you can see that currently for a primary care visit, it's $30. For a specialist office visit, it's $50. Those rates will stay exactly the same under this parameter. If the employee is going to a Cigna Care designated physician, then it stays at $30. Otherwise, if it's a non-Cigna Care designated physician, it'll move to $45. So that would be the copayment for that. If they're going to a specialist, an orthopedic, acupuncturist, etc., their office copay is $50 currently. That's still staying $50 if they go to the Cigna Care designated physician. But if they go to a non-Cigna Care designated physician, it'll go to $75. And I'll show you what that looks like, how you can tell the difference between the two. It's basically, if you go online into your mycigna.com account, if it has a blue circle with a C, that is a Cigna Care designated physician, and that'll be the same for primary care or specialist. So that's how you differentiate between the two. Advanced radiology is going from $125 currently to $200. If you have hospital and you're inpatient in the hospital, you can still see it's 20% after deductible, but instead of a $600 copay, it's going up $300. For an emergency room visit, which is currently $300 copay, 20% after deductible, it's now going up $150 to $450, and you can see that on down the line. Urgent care is moving from $50 to $75, and for the drug or the pharmacy annual out-of-pocket maximum is moving from 22 to 25. And so that's the difference between the gold plan. So it's basically taking your current plan that we have here and increasing it in all the areas that are listed in red. Now, the SIAC committee has voted and approved a second plan, which we're calling the silver plan. And this one I think I want to point out because I think this is very important for people to understand between the two different plans. The silver plan is basically all physicians in Brevard County and a lot of the Cigna network that are not Health First only physicians or Health First hospitals. So it's just Parish and Steward hospitals and the physicians that go to those, as well as non-Health First only affiliated physicians. Just to give you an idea, there's about 3,000 physicians that fit into that list, which is quite a few physicians in Brevard County. Health First has about 800 doctors that fall into their, they only go to Health First hospitals. So it's taking about 800 out, but quite a few of the physicians that people go to every day are non-affiliated or non-solo affiliated to Health First hospitals. So I think this is going to allow most people to look at this plan. The key for this is if you look at the pricing for the silver plan, and you can see I'm circling it there. If you compare that to the current plan designs, they're exactly the same. So if an employee chooses the silver plan, which is going to fit about 85% of our employees, if they choose the silver plan, yes, they are giving up Health First hospitals and physicians that only refer to the Health First hospitals. Yeah, they might have to look at that and decide whether they want to go there. But if they go to those Parish and Steward network hospitals, there's no increase in plan design whatsoever. So it's a great way for people to maintain their current expenses for medical care. But the difference is this, and I'm just going to be quite frank with everyone here. Health First costs us currently about 30% more than it does Steward hospitals. And it's about 10% more than Parish. Well, because we've created this network, Parish has agreed to reduce their pricing by 10%. Steward had said they can't lower it any more than where they are. So between that savings that we get with the silver plan, we're expecting to reduce our overall costs. Actually, if you look at this down below here and you see this, the projected savings by just moving about 60% of our employees to the silver plan will save the plan about $2.2 million a year. And that's where you can see this here. Now, as far as the contributions, which are these red areas here, if 40%, and that's what we're using as the migration rate, 60% would migrate to the silver plan, 40% would stay on the gold plan. What that will actually cost employees is about $1.7 million in increase in this particular area. So that is a great way to save money without changing a whole lot, other than you have to make a decision. Do you want to go to Health First Hospital, or do you want to go to Parish or Steward Hospital with all of those physicians? So that's basically the difference between the two plans. I do want to say this that I think is very important. The pharmacy, the copay for the generic preferred brand, our non-preferred brand, is staying exactly the same as what it is currently. So we're not increasing that at all. The only increase we have in the gold plan when it comes to pharmacy is the in-network out-of-pocket max is moving from $2,200 to $2,500, and the out-of-network out-of-pocket max is moving from $3,000 to $3,500. But there again, look at the silver plan, hasn't changed one bit. So in other words, if an employee chooses the silver plan, they will have no out-of-pocket cost changes from what they currently have with our current plan. So, and if you see what's coming on down below in this box down below, I think this is very good. The plan design changes are expected to bring in about $1.2 million. There's the Signacare designated network, which is this part here, that's going to the CDC and doctors. And I forgot to talk about one thing, and that's the tobacco surcharge. The committee did want to look at trying to make employees healthier by having them look at doing a tobacco surcharge. So if an employee during open enrollment clicks on the button that says, do you use tobacco in any form? So that could be chewing tobacco, smoking, vaping, et cetera, they would be charged 50 cents or $50 per month as a tobacco surcharge. And that would be applied to them and their spouse. The SIAC committee wanted it to be for the entire family, but unfortunately the law does not allow that. It can only be placed on the employee and their spouse when it comes to being able to do that legally. So there's a $50 per month surcharge for using tobacco. The one thing I think is important to point out with regards to the tobacco surcharge is this. Under the Affordable Care Act, we cannot charge that copay or the surcharge without giving people the chance to quit smoking or attend classes to stop smoking. So in other words, if an employee is using tobacco, yes, they would mark, yes, I do use tobacco, and $50 per month will come out of their basically out of their checks to cover that. But if the employee attends 6 non-smoking classes throughout the year, so once a month for 6 months, at the end of that year, we will refund to them everything that they spent on that tobacco surcharge. It doesn't stay forever. So if an employee will attend those 6 classes, they will be held harmless, and they'll get a payment at the end of the year that reimburses the total amount that was taken out of their check for that tobacco surcharge. The idea with regards to the tobacco surcharge is to hopefully give people the chance to stop smoking. And if they do that, in the long run, it'll save them money and extend their lifetime, but it will also reduce the cost to the overall plan, because cancer is a pretty expensive cost to employees from a finance, as well as what happens with shortening their lifespan. But smoking has been attributed to about 27 different types of cancers. And so that's one of the reasons why the committee found that it was that important. In addition to the plan designs and all of that, I do want to say this, and I'll show you this on the next page. The board, because we are under the 60-day requirement at this time, has agreed to provide a one-time infusion of $5 million into the health plan. So that'll take place before the month of June ends. So we will have at least 60 days that's going to be sent to the state. So we are not put into a correction mode or anything along those lines. So it's a one-time infusion of $5 million, which I think is fantastic. I mean, that's a great amount to put towards that. In addition to that, the board is electing to do a recurring $4.7 million increase to what their portion of the premiums are. So altogether, you can see what the board is showing here, or what the employees are coming here down below all of this above, which is about 5.8 million in total. But remember, a number of our people are not paying any additional co-payments, and they're not going to pay any more premiums. And I'll show that on the next page. But it's about 5.8 million in total with plan design, the Signacare designation, the tobacco surcharge, and the gold plan contribution. But that's a total of $9.7 million that the board has agreed to put in towards our health plan, which is a great amount. This is going to give us all together with what the employees will pay, as well as the board is putting in, about 15.5 million in savings. Compare that to our loss at this point. What that will do is give us about a $1.8 million surplus for the plan this year, which is really great. I do want to show this next page just to give you an idea of what the rates will look like. And maybe I should have changed this line here to gold and this one to silver so it's easier to look at, but I'll kind of point it out to you here. For those employees, and remember, I'm doing the same thing that I did before. This is the 2020 rates and contribution. So for example, right now we have about 4,000 employees who have the employee-only plan. And that employee plan total between the board and employee contribution is taking in $572.58 per month. And what that's made up is an employee contribution of $106.67, and the board is putting in $465.91. And you can see the employee spouse plan, there's 448 people that are on that plan. That premium is $1,259.67, which is made up of an employee contribution of $443.87 and a board contribution of $815.80. The employee children plan, there's 1,372 people that have that policy at this point, and that's made up of a premium rate of $1,030.64. The employee contribution towards that plan is $278.27, an employer contribution rate of $752.37. I do want to point something out. I think this is important for employees, that both the husband and wife, or I shouldn't say it that way, the spouses, the employee and spouse are employed in the district. There is a reduction for those beyond that instead of paying the family rate, because there's 770 people that currently pay the family plan. And I'll come back to that in just a second. That premium rate per month is $1,717.73. And that's made up an employee contribution of $561.57 and the board's contribution of $1156.16. For those who are husband and wife or spouses on the plan, what we do to save them some money so they're not paying this huge amount here is they pay the $106.67. So one of their, either the husband or wife or the spouse will pay $106.67, and then they add the $278.27. So and one pays the employee child plan. And that combined is cheaper than what you will see for this $561. I hope that makes sense when it comes to how that's spread. Now, with these contributions, you can see what we're taking in each year. So there's $64.98. I shouldn't say it that way. We have 6,498 people on our health plan. The total amount that comes in revenue from all of this is $66 million. The employees spend about 17.1 or pay 17.1 million in revenue. The board's revenue is $49 million. So that's what it is currently. With these new plans, if you look at the gold plan, I think it's important to understand that the premium rate is going up. And like I said, we're expecting that 60% of the employees will come over to this plan, or I'm sorry, 40% of them will come over to this plan. So the new premium rate goes from $572 for that plan to $639. The employee contribution is $133.34. So there's a 25% increase. And in fact, this particular plan, it's 25% across the board. So all of these, the employee only, the employee spouse, the employee children, and the family plan, it's gone up 25% from what they paid this year, just on this particular plan. Now, the employer contribution is also going up from $465 to $505.72. For the employee spouse, it's going $815 to $906. The employee children is going from $278 to, I must have a, wait, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's going up, so the employer contribution is going up $39.81 to $505, $91.04 to $906. It's going up $73.08 for the employee children plan to $825, and then you can see where the family plan increase is done. This is that increase is equal to both of the plans, the gold plan and the silver plan. And like I said earlier, the board is putting $4.7 million as a recurring increase. So this will be permanent, a $4.7 million increase from year to year. If we don't increase any next year, this will still continue on. The one thing I think is very important for anybody who may select the silver plan. Remember how I talked earlier here, where there's no plan design changes at all, or no plan design increases for the silver plan, the same includes no increases in the monthly premium for those employees who take that plan. So you're making a decision on, do you want to increase your monthly cost to continue going to a health first plan and that type of thing, or do you want to choose to go to parish or steward hospitals in order to save rate, both in co-payments as well as the monthly premium rate? So I hope that makes sense on how that prices. So for example, if an employee chooses the silver plan, their monthly rate's gonna stay exactly the same at 106.67. The employee's spouse is 443, that'll remain the same. If they're in the employee children plan, it's 278, and you can see that on down the line. What this amounts to, and you can see the difference here, is about $1.7 million more in revenue from employee, only because of the gold plan increase. But you can see the 4.7 million that's coming into the board, which was 49 million. They're now, the board's contribution is about $54 million. And that's where the 4.7 recurring increases from. I do want to go over this because I think this is kind of good. Earlier, I kind of went over the items, as far as what we are looking. Based on the increase of 4.7 million in premiums and a $5 million infusion, plus the 5.8 million in savings that's coming from the employees with regards to this plan, what we're talking about doesn't completely fix the problem. If you recall, in the first link, we were projected by December 31st, 2021 to have about a $25 million shortfall. This gets us closer at about 9.4 million is the shortfall. So we're probably going to have to look at doing something more this next year. It's not probably, we will be, and the SIAC will have to work on that. But this kind of gives you an idea of what the projection is because of all of those things that the SIAC committee did. Frankly, the committee did a terrific job, if you think about it, because they saw this number earlier in the year, and these changes, which 60% of, or I'd say a good 80% of our employees will not have to change anything other than going to a parish or a steward hospital rather than a health first hospital. That's the change. And maybe some physicians, it won't affect them at all if they do that, but that has the potential to save us, basically $15 million, $16 million just on doing this alone. So that's basically how this plan operates and works. Do any of you have any questions at this time?
Yeah, Mark, I have some questions.
Okay.
The list of doctors available for the silver plan, which is essentially independent doctors or those who are parish or steward or parish or steward hospitals, will that list be available soon?
It's available now. I can provide that to you. I think I provided that before, but I can certainly send that to you this evening so you can see what that is. Our plan is to update that twice a year. So we'll do it in June, so it's available in July, and then we'll do another one in December. But their mycigna.com account will also work. So, and if an employee ever has any questions on whether that physician is within that network, they can call Cigna and they can help them select a doctor from that as well.
If possible, if you could put that on the district website as soon as possible too, I think that would be helpful for everyone. Or if not, if you send it to me, we can get it out to employees that way as well.
Okay.
So you have mentioned many times that you think that 80% of members on the plan would be able to switch to the silver plan. Are you basing that on a disruption report of some sort, or are you just estimating?
No, I'm basing it based on where they're getting treatment now. Most of the employees that we have are not incurring any hospital costs. It's more like 85% of our employees are not really spending a whole lot of money on health insurance. Where most of this is coming from is about 1,000, maybe 1,500 people who are expending a lot of money on the health plan. So the 80% is covering the lion's share of what the costs are, but they're not utilizing the health plan. I didn't include that with this, but Aon put together, I think they call it a bubble chart, Anthony, if you recall that, when we looked at it on the committee, and that would show you how much people are expending on health insurance costs. Most of the people are utilizing their annual physical at no cost, their annual mammograms at no cost, and those other things, but their expenses into the health plan are not tremendous. And that's about 80% of our employees are spending less than $1,500 a year on health insurance.
Mark, what if an employee is currently undergoing treatment with Health First doctors for, let's say, something major that's going to be going on, for 6 months or a year? I believe that I heard in the committee that BPS would still pay those claims if it is something that the member is under treatment for at the time of the change.
I need to look at that for sure, Anthony. What I would recommend any employee who might be considering it is to consider going to a doctor that's going to be moving in, that'll stay on that plan, so there isn't any disruption for those. But I'll need to get back to you for sure to see if that would be grandfathered in. I can't recall right offhand.
All right. Now,
I can let me say something. I think this is important to say too. Right now, Health First has indicated that they want an increase. They want to do a charge increase for their services. What they have told Cigna is they want more a rate increase. We don't know how much that is. And they're working on negotiating right now with Health First. But Health First is given a term date of November 30th. I do expect that Cigna and Health First will come to some sort of agreement, but I can't guarantee that. If the term does take place, we won't have Health First in the network after November 30th. I do like it, but I don't want to scare anybody at this point. I do think they will work it out. I've talked to representatives from Health First and Cigna, and there's a huge desire to work that out. But that will be an increase in cost to the district because of what Health First is doing at this point. How much, I don't know.
So, and I think you mentioned earlier that Parrish actually came down on their rates for the Silver plan, and Stewart kept them, and Health First is seeking to increase rates.
Yes, what they're seeking to increase what we are paying for the same services now.
Yeah, and so Mark, this assumes 60% migrating into the Silver plan.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, so is it not true that if fewer people migrated over, we would actually generate more revenue? Because
yes,
more people would be paying the increased premiums?
Yes, actually, if you look on the screen now, I think I still have this up, if you can see that. We are assuming a 60% migration, and based on the premium and copay, because frankly, that's really good to go 7 years without having any premium or plan design changes. I mean, 7 years, that's pretty phenomenal. But if say 20% migrate, the revenue increase, instead of being 15.5 million, would be 17.3, because the gold plan costs more and the plan designs are at a higher rate. If 80% go, but here's the caveat here. If 80% migrate. So it's kind of backwards. So if more people go than what we expect, instead of getting more money, we'll actually get less. Instead of getting the 15.5, which is what we're hoping to get with estimated savings, our savings would be 14.6. Frankly, I'd be much happier if more people went over to the new plan. There is not as much money as we're hoping to obtain, but it would be cheaper for employers or for employees. But you know, so that's a good savings to them. We would just have to try and figure that on the SIAC committee next year on how we can fix that.
Mark, on this new chart you've created, I don't think it shows the per month increase that you guys are proposing. You just have the total increase. So I believe that the your proposed increase for employee only is $26.67 per month. For employee and
Yeah,
spouse.
it is the difference between the 133.34 and the 106.67. So that is the difference.
I just wanted to make sure I say those numbers. So what
Sure.
BPS is proposing is employee only increases $26.67 per month. Employee and spouse $110.97. Employee and children $69.57, and employee and family $140.39 per month if you stay on the gold plan.
Right.
Okay.
It is a 25% increase across the board.
All right.
So the percentage is an equal increase. The amount is a little bit different.
Yeah. Does anyone on the team have oh, actually, I did have one more question. When is open enrollment scheduled for?
We currently have it scheduled from the 19th to the 30th, which is
October.
Of October. Yeah, we have this time crunch, and that's the problem, because in order to make this happen by January 1st, we have to get open enrollment done at that time.
So unfortunately, we won't know what Health First decides before open enrollment.
That is correct.
All right. Does anybody on the team have questions for Mark about his health insurance proposal?
I have a quick question. Mr. Langdorf, if Health First does increase their rates and that happens after open enrollment has closed, how does that affect employees?
Well, it won't affect employees because the co-pays and deductibles are already set for the year. So they're not going to have an increase there. The plan obviously will be paying more for those bills than what they paid.
So the district picks up the slack on that? Yes.
And that will, those bills mean our bottom line will be a little bit worse because we'll have that negative amount coming out of our trust fund.
Got it.
Mark, I have a question about Health First too. If an employee, just so that I can make sure I understand this, and maybe people at home, if an employee chooses to get a service with a Health First doctor and the rates are higher, does this mean there's a possibility they might pay more, out of pocket while they're trying to meet their deductible than they would if they went somewhere else?
Are you talking in the gold plan?
I'm talking in any plan. So
yes, it is more out of pocket. So for example, it just depends on what it is. You can see what I put up here. The out-of-pocket max right now is $4,500. It goes to $5,500. So whatever percentage. So if it's, say the copayment is $900 plus 20% after deductible, whatever goes to that bottom line, that's going to increase by about $1,000 more per year. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm not sure I asked my question clearly.
Okay.
So what I'm asking is, okay, I'm just using figures. So let's say, somebody has a deductible they have to reach of, what is that, $5,500 on the gold plan?
That's the out-of-pocket max. That is correct.
Okay, so what I'm saying is if they chose a Health First doctor, is there a possibility because of the possible rate increase, or this might already be happening, where let's say if I chose a Health First doctor, and I get a bill for $500 of my portion towards my out of pocket, but if I had instead chosen a Steward doctor, I'd only get a bill for like $250 towards my out of pocket. What I'm wondering is Health First, with their rate increase, is some of that rate increase being passed down to the consumer in the way of what they have to pay to meet their deductible? In
Now I
other
understand.
words,
Yes.
okay,
So for example, if their bill is $500 now, a Health First bill is $500 now, but after the rate increase, it's $600. Will that be passed along as far as the percentage? So for example, the in-hospital patient stay, that you'd still have the $900 copay, but it's still 20% of the 20% of the bill after the deductible has been met. So for example, if you pay the $900 and the bill is sent to you, including the $900 plus the $500 now, you'd only pay 20%. If it goes up to $600, you're paying 20% on the $600. So yes, that portion does pass along to the employee.
so if Health First raises its rates, then that's potential for the, because some people never even make their deductible, as
Right.
far as they get procedures done throughout the year, or they go to the doctor throughout the year and they never actually meet their out-of-pocket maximum. So I just want to make sure, people understand, when you're making choices, if Health First is charging more, that there's a potential that they would be charged more than they would if they went somewhere else, because they're never going to meet their out of pocket. Like, I'm going to go have this procedure, but if I get it done by Health First, I might pay $500 out of pocket. If I get it done over here, I might pay $250 out of pocket.
And
I'm
that,
just throwing notes out. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I just want to know, because people are going to have to look at this and make careful decisions. And that when it comes down to it, if I'm trying to decide where I'm going to go for my medical service, obviously lots goes into that. But if it's going to be a dramatic shift for what I pay out of pocket because of rate increases, I think we need to be able to tell people that, so that they can make good choices.
absolutely. And Vanessa, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Bill asked me earlier. So Bill, I was incorrect. It does affect employees when it comes to the percentage after deductible payments in play. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah, it does. That makes perfect sense now. Thank you for clarifying.
Oh. And thank you, Vanessa, for bringing that up, because that is something I should have clarified.
Hey, but Mark, can I ask a question based on what Bill asked?
Sure.
So I thought I heard Bill say, and I can't remember exactly how he stated the question, but the result, the second part of it was, or does the district costs go up? Isn't it, and you said yes, isn't it true that the cost that goes up is to the self-insured fund?
Yes.
Okay, it's not the district necessarily, it's the self-insurance fund.
It is our fund. And so we, next year we're going to have to look at that and see where our trust fund balance is, hopefully, in February or March of next year, to decide what we're going to do from there. I'm hoping the rate increase is not going to be terrible, but you just never know what's going to happen. I am going to be meeting with representatives with Health First, and I have a meeting on Thursday with them and with the Board of County Commissioners and representatives from Harris, because we are the largest employers in Brevard County that have Cigna as their ASO. And so hopefully we'll have a better idea, but it's their negotiations with Cigna. So we're just going to express our concerns about any increase at all, because our employees can't afford it, and neither can our trust fund. And so any increase is going to hurt all of us. But I just thought I'd let you know, I do think Health First and Cigna will work it out. I just don't know how much of an increase that's going to amount to.
So Mark, I had one question for you, and I think first of all, it sounds like a Health First is a pariah in Brevard, and hopefully this neural network helps that out. But I noticed when you were laying out the plan on the slide you have right now, you
Mhm.
said that everything stayed the same, but I don't know if it's a typo or if it was meant to happen. And the annual deductible for the wellness on the silver plan.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a difference there.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if that was a typo or not. So somebody
I
noticed it, and I just wanted to verify. Thank you.
here's what I need to do. I need to go back and verify everything that we did when this was approved by the SIAC on May, because the SIAC actually finished this on May 14th. So we've had this for a while. And so I'll go make sure that's correct. I did notice the typo.
Yeah, I tried to go back and look at the SIAC minutes from that meeting, and it wasn't clear what was voted on either. So thank you.
I'll take a
Kyle,
look.
what specifically are you referring to?
On the wellness for the silver plan, it's a $250 change for I'm assuming that's the if you're on a family plan or an employee and spouse, where it says 750, 1,500, but on the current plan it's 750, 1,250. So I didn't know if it was a typo, if it was meant. Somebody online watching pointed it out, so I just wanted to question it. Thank you.
Yep. We'll get that corrected.
Does anyone on the team have questions about any of Dr. Green's proposals?
Oh, you want to go ahead, Kyle? Or you want me?
Yeah, I'll go first if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I had two questions about the JROTC proposal. If you could happen to bring it back up, or I think I know the one was a section C, Dr. Green. Is that the one that talks about vacation time?
No, section C is the salary, but hold on, let me, Mark, you have to stop sharing.
Oh, I can take care of that for you.
Just like that.
Oh, Mark did it.
Kyle, just
I
like
did it.
that.
Mark beat me to it.
Okay. Hang on. I'm getting there. Hang on.
No worries. I thought it was C, but I guess I was off.
Wait, I got a bug flying around me. That's why I'm whacking at my head right here.
That's not nice.
Okay.
To look like that.
Well, it's a little teeny gnat. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, Dr. Green.
So there is C.
Oh, then it wasn't that one. It was where it talks about selling back vacation time.
Not selling back. We don't sell back vacation time.
It's C, right? It's HC, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. So it says an instructor whose contract year ends June 30th and whose last work day is June 30th or prior, but whose retirement date is July receives. Okay. So if they retire on the 31st, even though their physical year started July 1st, they don't get any additional vacation time for that month?
No. So what happens is teachers, as you know, as we've been trying to go through retention and look at retirement numbers and et cetera, they finish June 30th, but they set their retirement date as July 31st. And they do that to carry benefits over the summer and probably get those summer pays. I'm not really sure why they do that, but we find that with, as we've been looking at retiree attrition and all that, July 31st, a teacher can retire at the end of, May 29th, but they set their end of benefit dates for July 31st. So what we're saying for the ROTC people is if we went by what the language said earlier, if they didn't retire till July 31st, they would only get 2.5 days vacation because it resets to 0 every year or every July 1. So what we're saying, and we had a couple this year that retired at the end of the 1920 school year, but they kept their retirement date as July 31st. So they didn't work at all in July, so they don't accrue any days in July because they're not working. But we paid them their vacation for 1920.
Maybe I'm just confused because I was under the understanding that the JROTC is actually on a different contract year than teachers, where the teacher contract year actually ends July 31st. But and further up in this contract, it showed that JROTC's contract year ends June 30th.
So that isn't accurate. The teacher's contract year ends June 30th.
Okay.
A contract year goes July 1 to June 30.
Okay, Dr. Green, I might have a follow-up about that. But my second one was when you talked about if DFAS made a payroll mistake, that the district was held harmless.
No, not a payroll mistake. A calculation in their. So are you familiar with what happened this year?
I'm completely familiar with what happened this year.
Okay, so what happened this year was MIPS, DFAS, had a miscalculation of several thousands of dollars, and I'm sorry, I have that little gnat around me, so I apologize, of several thousands of dollars. So it wasn't caught until after we had already recalculated the salary and the JROTC employee was paid that amount. MIPS recalculated and we had to get that amount back, which we have done. Same as if they would have made an error the other way. We would have recalculated, they would have in April, and if they would have found the error and it was for the advantage of the employee, we would have given that money to the employee.
So my question was, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
My question was going to be, I believe under state statute, there's a limit on how far back an employee can be pay can be adjusted or taken back, whatever word you would like to use. Would you agree that that still applies to this situation, even if it's on DFAS's fault?
I would not, because I don't know that they followed the same rules. So I don't know the answer to that. That would be a question for the legal people to answer. The issue with this particular employee is it certainly had been found within that time limit, but there was a more than a year discussion back and forth about being able to do something about it. And so ultimately we were able to correct that error. But the only issue with the only thing about the language that we put is that it wasn't our error. Like the district didn't make the error came from DFAS.
No,
and it was like the district.
I understand, Dr. Green, and I'm sorry, I really did not mean to cut you off. I just know that it took quite a long time for the district to be able to explain that error and how it was just, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But I understand your proposal. Thank you, Dr. Green.
Okay. And ultimately, we didn't explain it. The military people explained it. We tried over and over again to explain it, and it wasn't being heard. So we got the military people on the phone to have the conversation.
Okay, any questions about the other proposals?
I had, I don't know if there are questions or maybe some wonderings. So on the professional development one, I think there are, concerns, and one of the reasons why we kind of brought it down to where it was 3 per semester is because not all of the professional development that teachers were being required to attend was necessarily relevant or helpful. And also, sometimes, a school might get an administration change, and so they have a flavor of the year change for what they want to offer for professional development. Obviously, we all value professional development, and we're working to try to get some of our courses that we offer, the 4 points too, online. And I know a lot of PD is moving online, or the self-paced courses. I've kind of seen more self-paced courses come up, which I think are ultimately the best for teachers so that they can choose when to do them. The other The other thing too, as well, as far as the 3 per semester, when we kind of bargained that, some administrators would try to, do professional development back to back, or do it in August, which is one of the most horrible months that you can use to take an early release Friday away from teachers. And then we hear from teachers, I think this was already mentioned, Anthony mentioned it, that they're going to these PDs and they're not necessarily earning points. Now, I know, coupled with some of these, you do have to do like the work associated with it or whatever you have to do to get the points. But, teachers really shouldn't be having to give up their time and not earning points for PD. So those are just some of my concerns with that. Also, given the new just the new world that we're in, I would hope that any PD, whether we change the language or not, is being offered virtually, so that we can reduce the spread of COVID. Coincidentally, too, moving into second semester, coming back from winter break and having to do a PD in January. I mean, really, we're looking on what can save our teachers time, and not get them pulled away from grading, planning, getting things together. So that was kind of the intent of taking it down to 3. So I didn't know if there was, anything behind wanting to get it back up to 5, other than principals wanting more time to do site-based PD, or something that they've decided to do, or if it's district requirements, state requirements.
Well, I think it's all of the above, and related, at least to this year, for the January, keep in mind that we have agreed not to have PD on the 2 Fridays prior to grades being due. So developing some sort of a calendar, I would be all in favor of. But I do agree that, and I'll check on the in-service and how that gets taken care of, but I do agree, it is all of the things you just mentioned, Vanessa. The principals need it, the district needs it, the state is coming up with changes, and there's things, there's just things that are coming down all the time that we can't even wrap our heads around, because we can't get face-to-face with our teachers in a professional development mode.
Okay. And then I think I just wanted to mention it too. I don't serve on the SIAC committee, but I have attended meetings because I, was a glutton for punishment. But also, obviously I want to try to stay on top of things, because we need to educate our members. We do need to be prepared when we come to the table. But I would be reticent to put that in the contract, because I think it's important to have the entire bargaining team be able to kind of sink their teeth into the plan. We know that there might be changes that happen in between a SIAC meeting happening and, getting to the bargaining table. I understand the necessity of time. Obviously, having to deal with things because of open enrollment and, the necessary time it takes before plan changes take effect. However, I was, this is nothing against the SIAC committee, because I think the SIAC committee is full of hardworking individuals. I don't know where the blame for this necessarily resides, but I did sit through 2 SIAC meetings in a row. I believe it was March and April, maybe February and March. They were the same exact meeting. There was nothing changed. It felt like the parties that were presenting could have been more well prepared. And so, given just an outside perspective looking at it, the way information's presented, it's certainly, we're not in a time crunch because, of BFT. We're in a time crunch because we could have focused on these issues a lot sooner than we did. And I don't want to take the power away from people on the bargaining team and our membership to automatically put something up for ratification when there might be a time that goes by where new information comes in, money doesn't come in, and changes are necessary.
Speaking of that, can I show you, I thought Mark had it queued up on his computer, but what we forgot to add on was to his presentation was what that looks like in the contract. So I do need to put that up on the screen if you'll give me just a minute. And Mark, I'll put it up there. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but let me get it up there.
Okay. Carol, do you want me to pull it up?
If you can, I'm trying, I'm almost there. If you'll just give me a minute.
Okay.
I'm almost there. I think I'm almost there. Okay, I'm there. So hold on. Now I got to go back and share. For some reason, your colors are different. But here we go, I think. Okay. I think it's going to pop up any second now.
Okay. Yeah, I see that here. What we did here is basically the presentation that I presented earlier. We kind of broke down into these particular areas under these articles. So if you look in here, we're changing obviously the dates, the effective date of January 2021. The board agrees to contribute to the district's benefit plans for teachers electing the Brevard Public School Health Plan as outlined in Appendix A. We'll get it to Appendix A in just a moment. Below that, you'll see effective January 1, 2021, the in-network deductible will be as follows. This is exactly what's listed in the chart that I just showed you. So you'll be able to see how that works. What we did differently this year than what we've done in the past, and I think this is important to understand. We've had one calendar year deductible for an employee who does the biometric and health screen and one who doesn't. The problem is when you have an employee and the spouse, sometimes what we found is the spouse may not do it or the employee may not do it and the spouse does it. And so we either have to charge none or all. What we've had to do here is kind of break it in half to give those situations where you might have a family where a spouse or an employee is unwilling to do the biometric and health assessment, but their other partner does. And so that's what this is meant to be, to kind of give that in between for a spouse who may not choose to do a biometric and their employee will. So that's what we've incorporated into this. So you can see the in-network deductible under A, B, and C there. So that is broken down into that language. We've also changed the dates down below to 2021, and that the board is offering 2 medical plan options. So that's the language change there. So if you go to the next page on the appendix, what we felt the best thing to do is change instead of upon ratification of employees on the school board to the plan, just when both parties agree to contribution and plan design. Now here's the deal. Obviously, I'm asking us to look at this before we'll vote on a contract because of our limited time when it comes to open enrollment, because we have to put the printing out, we have to prepare and educate the employees with regards to the 2 health plans. So that's why that language was changed, solely for that reason, rather than wait until the whole contract is done. So that's the change there. We've listed the silver plan and the gold plan premiums, so you can see the premium amount, the board contribution, the employee contribution. We've also added the tobacco surcharge per month on both of those plans, and you can see how on the strikeout, if you can move up just a little bit on that, Carol. Keep going down. So you can, no, the other way, I'm sorry. You can see what was there before compared to what we've replaced it with. So if you go to the next page, Carol, and this is just additional things that needed to change. What we did notice is some things were not corrected back 6 years, 7 years ago. So that's really what the change is. So you can kind of see that in retail mail order. These things were changed back then, but apparently they didn't make it into the contract. So you can see where the pricing differences are in those two areas. And then we just added the silver plan prescription drug plan with its out-of-pocket maximum of $2,200 versus $44, and then the gold plan. So those are the changes that we put there. Now, also in Appendix A, we are listing the schedule of benefits. And Carol, can you go down to that schedule of benefits? Or it may not be there.
That's on a different page, right?
Yes.
All right, hang on. Nope, that's not it. Hang on. This one? Nope. You may have to do that, Mark.
Let me see where I have that.
Was it in?
Yeah, let
Okay,
me take over the, if you allow me to take over,
All right, I just stopped.
Okay. So currently, tell me when you can all see this.
We got it.
I can
All right.
see it.
The schedule of benefits that's currently there will no longer apply because of the two plans. So what we're proposing is this would replace that particular schedule of benefits where you can see the two different plans side by side and all of the costs that we just talked about in a little while ago. What's also nice about this is you can also see towards the bottom there, see the blue with the C in the circle? That shows what the Signacare designated physician is. So if you go into your mysigna.com account, any physician that's a primary care physician or specialist with that designation, they maintain the $30 copay or the $50 copay for a specialist. So this would replace the current schedule of benefits along with the two previous pages where we made the language changes in that particular area. Is there any questions on either of those?
Mark, previously, what has been the history of premium changes? I don't think that we typically have waited for ratification to start moving forward with them into open enrollment. And then I know last year, with a simple letter to the members, we were able to make changes to the plan after open enrollment. Is that not correct?
Yeah, when it's not a major change like that, it's not listed. We haven't had to do that. We didn't have to have a vote on it. I was not over the plan at the last time we had a premium increase or plan design change like this, but I would think if the union or BFT were willing to do this and the board obviously was able to do this, if we drafted an MOU saying we can move forward with this program and it'll be brought to the membership for their vote in the future, I think that might suffice, but Carol would have to verify that to make sure our legal counsel would accept that, because I'm not absolutely certain on that.
And I'm not absolutely certain on the legality of going forward, you know, from here on out, that we can agree to health insurance changes without ratification is what the new language you're proposing suggests. I have to look into that too. Dr. Green, at this point, I'm wondering how we proceed from here. It's like almost 7 o'clock. How about a 10-minute caucus, and then we'll go from there, decide if we're going to continue talking tonight or, because I know you probably have considerable amount of stuff to look into.
Yes.
You know, I do too. As far as you know, like JROTC, I obviously need to talk to those instructors. Possibly we might be able to counter some of the health insurance proposal, but I kind of want to take like a 10-minute break, use the bathroom and talk to the team and go from there. Would that work for you, or do you have a different idea?
No, that would be great. I had to find my microphone because I saw that you just sent me your proposals. I was just getting those ready to go to you.
Awesome.
Yes, a 10-minute break would be wonderful. I do know we do have another session scheduled.
Yeah.
So again, like you said, there's a lot of stuff we both have to check on. So it might, you know, just consider that. We already have another date on the table.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we will.
Kyle, how do you want to do this now?
So give me a second. Let me go ahead and stop us from.
So Kyle, you don't have to Zoom my people. I'm going to reach out to them on a different format. You just worry about your group.
Okay.
And Anthony, when you're ready for us to like hit back into Zoom, we'll do that.
Okay. Awesome. So Kyle, you're going to stop recording now too.
And my people, I'm going to send you another link.